is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media, Incorporated.
Welcome back to another episode of Total Football Talk. The Jets are open to trading quarterback Zach Wilson, but he is still an asset to the team. ? Can any UFL offense stop the Birmingham Stallions defense as they remain undefeated in the UFL? And the Broncos backup quarterback suggested the NFL adopts the UFL as a developmental league. Would this be a good move or a bad move? All that and more on this edition of Total Football Talk. Welcome back to another edition of Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron news. Today I have a special guest with me. Back again is Cool McCain for this special edition of Monday's first debut of Total Football Talk. Welcome back to the show, my man, Cool McCain.
What's going on? What's going on, man? Glad to be back.
Hey, man, looking forward to another day of talking gridiron action with you. We already got Ike in the house saying, yo, already hype for today's action. Those of you in the comments, keep them coming. We'll acknowledge you throughout the show. But we're going to get this started with the open and drive and recap this past weekend in UFL action.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Ready.
This past weekend in the UFL, we saw 4 games. You know, one of them was a little lopsided. A couple of them actually kind of a little lopsided when you really look at them. And, you know, we did have one really good one that we'll recap as the game of the week. But starting it out with the St. Louis Battlehawks here. They improved to 3-1 with a 32-17 victory over the Memphis Showboats, who fall to 1-3. A.J. McCarron, 222 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception in this game right here. He has 8 touchdowns and only 1 interception for the season, so he threw his first interception on the season, but he has 8 touchdowns through 4 games. It's pretty good, including 4 carries for 23 yards. Jacob Saylor's 15 carries, 103 yards for the touchdown, eclipsing 100 yards in this game for rushing. It's really good for the Battlehawks, because that was a question that I was talking about over the first couple of weeks, where their running game is a little suspect, and they're relying a little bit more on A.J. McCarron. They got it a little bit more balanced in this game against the Showboats. You know, Ja'Cour Pearson, 10 receptions, 70 yards, and a touchdown, along with Hakeem Butler, 8 receptions for 61 yards. The Battlehawks defense, 4 sacks, interception by Lavert Hill, along with Case Cookus, 55 passing yards and a touchdown with an interception for the Showboats, including Troy Williams' 37 lackluster passer yards in the second half. Wasn't really enough for the Showboats, as they only put up 17 points. The running backs for the Showboats as well, on 14 attempts, 67 rushing yards, and 58 of those by Darius Victor. So pretty much 9 rushing yards by the other 3 running backs on the list. Vinny Papali, though, gets his 3rd touchdown on the season as he gets 2 receptions for 21 yards. He's probably one of the highlights for this Memphis Showboats team for the season. You know, looking at this right here, Cool, what are your thoughts when looking at this game that we saw here for the UFL?
So, I mean, Ja'Cour Pearson definitely, big impact. he had a nice touchdown catch. McCain had time to pop him some popcorn, get a refill on his drink, straighten out his pass and everything to get that off. I mean, but hey, when you had a time and you have really good players, electric guys, glad Pearson, back for them. It definitely makes a difference. We talk about in football, when you have all your weapons, it makes it more difficult for the other team because they have to account for them. So getting him back was good.
Yeah.
Like you talked about Sailors, 103 yards, a 57-yard run in the fourth quarter. Those are big plays. That's a chunk play on the ground. Any league where you can run for a 57-yard play, that's a big time play.
Yes.
Since they lost 3-1. So hey, they got the loss to Michigan Panthers, but since then, they're doing what needs to be done. I mean, we can say a couple of things about the other team, but you already have pretty much said those. But hey, St. Louis team, man, this is a team to watch. They're looking solid. Let us see it.
They are. I mean, this was a game at halftime, at least. It was 20-17, but the Showboats got blown out in the second half. I mean, they put up a goose egg the entire second half. So when you have that type of lackluster production, the majority of it coming from the first half, you don't have any hope of winning a game. And that's why, the additional 12 points by the Battlehawks in the second half, it wasn't much, but it was just enough to keep it going. But whether they would have scored or not, they would have still won because they were winning at halftime. But hey, this game right here by the Battlehawks, like you said, they've been a force to be reckoned with. There's a reason why they are at 3-1 for their record to start this season out right now. And they're pretty red hot, man. And it's a team that going against the Stallions, we'll talk about here in a little bit, the Battlehawks might be coming for them at some point, but we'll have to see as the season goes forward. So next we have the Brahmas and the Panthers. And the San Antonio Brahmas improved to 3-1 as well as they defeat the Michigan Panthers 19-9 as the Panthers fall to 2-2 here. Another great game by the Brahmas, and they didn't have their starting quarterback there. They had in Chase Garbers over the first few weeks. He went down, but there's a possibility he might be coming back at some point this season. We'll get into that more later on. But, Quentin Dormady comes in for him, throws for 269 passing yards as the backup quarterback for the Brahmas. 1 touchdown and an interception. John Lovett, 13 carries, 35 yards with a touchdown, along with Anthony McFarland's 9 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown. The running game definitely contributed towards the Brahmas' victory here as they won 19-9. Justin Smith, 7 receptions for 107 yards, along with John Trey Kirkland, again coming in big this week, as he has been for the previous month. 5 receptions, 105 yards. The Brahmas defense, 6 sacks, an interception by Jordan Mosley, and 2 fumble recoveries to help seal the deal for that team in that 19-9 victory. The Panthers rushing, 111 rushing yards on 17 attempts, 49 of those by the quarterback, E.J. Perry. Marcus Sims, 4 receptions, 63 yards, and a touchdown, along with Jake Bates' 49-yard field goal. I know I've talked about him a lot in the previous 4 weeks, but hey, he was 1 for 1 on a field goal for that 49 yards on that day, but 6 of 6 on field goals throughout the first 4 weeks. You cannot deny what this kid is doing. Is definitely forging his path towards the NFL. But when you look at this Panthers team, E.J. Perry didn't really stick in too long. Danny Etling came in and threw for 105 yards and touchdown and an interception. But when you put all that together, McCain, along with the Panthers defense, 1 sack and an interception by Kai Nakua, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on the show, what are your thoughts when it comes to this close contest between the Brahmas and the Panthers?
So I like what the Brahmas did. I like the fact that, you take what's there, right? You get the yards, you move the ball, you control the time of possession. You had a great performance on defense from Jordan Mosley, right? Your backup quarterback comes in, slings the ball. He does throw an interception, but hey, he's your backup for a reason, right? But he has a good performance, helps the team win. Unfortunately, the other team lost E.J. Perry as well, as you stated, so you ended up having pretty much a second half of backup versus backup. Etling threw the interception at the end of the game to Mosley, which kind of sealed everything. But the best part about all this, Drew, is Wade Phillips' victory dance. That was the best part.
Hey, you know he's got experience with the Super Bowl. He was dancing along with the defense at the Super Bowl. So, hey, it's not his first time he's busting a move.
Absolutely not. But, hey, love to see it, man. Love to see that he still gets, that hype and excited about it.
Especially at his age, because the man's in his 70s, and nobody would have expected when they first formed this league, a few years back, that he'd be coming back to full-time coaching, because we'd seen him as a defensive coordinator. Even when he got that Super Bowl victory as defensive coordinator, they thought that he was towards retirement, like that was his send-off. Well, you fast forward some time, and it's been almost a decade, it seems. It's been close to a decade since they won that Super Bowl. And now he's in the UFL, doing what he's doing with the Brahmas, and he did pretty decent with Houston last year, and then he moved on over, considering what he had, and then now he's with the UFL with the Brahmas, and a team that is named after the Rock, the Brahma Bull. So the Rock, who's at the top of the food chain of the UFL as far as ownership and leadership there, he's excited to see his Brahmas in the first month have a 3-1 record. So it's absolutely awesome to see that. And with that being said, let's go and take this into the next game on the slate. The Houston Roughnecks improved to 1-3. This was the battle of the defeated there, Cool McCain. They were 0-3 for both of these teams coming in. 17-9 was the score to finish this game, but going throughout, Reed Sinnett, looking at what he did, looking at old Cyril Grayson, looking at what he did with 3 receptions, 62 yards. Justin Hall, 4 receptions, 35 yards. It's not a lot when you put it into perspective in one case, but when you really look at it, 17-9 game, it was a pretty lackluster game on both ends. Sinnett 191 passing yards with a touchdown, 18-28 in his completion. So he only missed 10 completions on the day. You got the rest of this team here, when you put it all in perspective. Emmanuel Butler, 2 receptions, 12 yards and a touchdown. He was quiet as far as his yardage, but he's been pretty productive over the previous weeks when it comes to moving the chains and getting the ball in the end zone. So looking at it right there, along with the Roughnecks running back, 76 rushing yards and 23 attempts and a touchdown by Mark Thompson. We look at 23 attempts, 76 yards. It's a lot of attempts to get that kind of yardage, but you're still moving the chains. You're still getting the ball in the end zone. You're still scoring points. And even though 17 points is not a lot by many standards, it's still enough to win a game, the battle of the defeated, especially when you have the previous XFL champions, the Arlington Renegades here, who have definitely not started this season off well at all. Looking at this right here with the 17-9 defeat, along with when you look at Luis Perez's 144 passing yards, a touchdown and interception, has a nearly 1,000 passing yards through the first month of the season, but can't get a victory. Deontay Burnett, 4 receptions, 58 yards, and Letty Brown's 4 receptions, 41 yards were the contributing factors towards his passing yardage total. But that Roughnecks defense with 2 sacks and that interception that he threw by Perez that was received by Keandre Thomas, along with the fumble recovery, definitely hurt their progress in this game. Looking at this right here, what are your thoughts on this overall game here?
Well, I'm going to start with the defense here for Houston. This is a defense that, gave up 34 points last week, right? This week, they only gave up 9 points. Like you talked about, Chris Odom with the strip sack, and then Gabriel Sewell with the recovery. With 18 seconds left to kind of make sure, the game went the way that the Roughnecks wanted it to go. And I have not said this yet, but I have to say this now that they want get a 1 check, got to get some Roughnecks. I had to get that one out. But I like that Mark Thomas came back as well. Thompson, I think he made a big deal on the team just from the standpoint, again, like we were talking about in one of the earlier games. When you have all your guys or most of your guys, you have a guy come back from injury that hasn't played, everybody gets hyped. Everybody's like, yeah, we got him back. He's a workhorse. So he's doing a lot of things to make everything happen and get them in the right situations, making the team 2-dimensional. So now when you're looking at the Roughnecks, you don't just have to worry about the pass. You have to worry about the run. You have to worry about them actually getting yards. Now, it may not be 10 yards to carry or anything like that, but you're getting what you need to get. He had a 10-yard touchdown. Definitely had an impact on the game. And then you held the top pass thrower in the league to 144 yards. 2 sacks, interception. Great game for the Roughnecks. If you play this way, you have a chance to move up the rankings if you can continue to play this way. But the question is, can you keep this going against other teams that are maybe not on the same talent level or close to your talent level? So that's what we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks with the Roughnecks. But, hey, a win's a win. However you get them, and you got to celebrate them. They needed to be doing a dance like Wade was doing.
Well, after the game, Reese and Ned had said, hopefully they can get the ball rolling with this and turn this into wins 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 to finish the year out potentially 7-3. And yeah, that would garner you a spot in the playoffs, definitely with a 7-3 record at that point. I think it's safe to say that the Renegades, even if they win 6 consecutive games here, they're not going to be making the playoffs. And if they do, they're not going to be a team to be reckoned with like last year. Like, they're not going to get hot like they did last year. I don't believe so. Luis Perez deserves better because the talent around him is not like the talent he had last year. I think that they had a little bit better chemistry in some players that they lost during the offseason, between some of them going to the NFL potentially or other teams. It changed it up. It's not the same. He's still being productive back there, but it just goes to show that you can have a decent talent at quarterback, and it's not going to be enough if you don't have a decent balance around him. So the offensive line definitely has had some struggles too, which is why they have fallen to where they're at. So it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out for this team right here. But at least we have some more positive things to talk about here with the game of the week. But before we get to that, we've got a few comments here in the chat we'll acknowledge. Ike says the Brahmas are better than the Battlehawks. What do you think about that right there? Cool, McCain. Are you on board with that? The Brahmas are better than the Battlehawks right now.
Let's let time tell us who's better. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really discredit the Battlehawks like that, Ike, because of what they did last year. They were like really close to going forward in the playoffs, and they could have been. I think the Arlington Renegades stole the Battlehawks championship last year. We really look at it or at least the momentum of it, because the Battlehawks had the momentum throughout the entirety of the season. We thought they were going to win the XFL championship. Now that you've got the merger between the USFL and the XFL here, and the Stallions playing the way they're playing, I don't think that there is any other team that's a lock right now on beyond the Stallions, because the Stallions have been playing really, really great right now. So looking at that, Sick Diggy's in the house. What's up, my man? Sick is here. Sick Diggy, floating around. Appreciate you being here, brother, and checking it out. What's good, everybody? He says, peace to the chat. What's good, everybody? How's it going? Ike doesn't give a fuck as he's talking to Ike in there, and even Ike is heading back with what up, Diggy. So you guys keep it going with the combos there between the platforms. Even Cool's got some things going between Play Caller Sports Talk and Facebook. So thank you very much for sharing that there, brother. Along with, you can see us on Coming Media's. I appreciate you on Coming Media's platforms as well, on Twitch, YouTube, and X, formerly known as Twitter, and Sertoba Media's platforms as well. So got some decent eyes up in here right now. Keep those comments going, everybody, and we'll see you here throughout the rest of this show. But we got to get to the game of the week now. And this game of the week, it was an interesting one here because you have the Stallions and the Defenders, and the Defenders put up a great fight. And you got to give it to them here, because for a while in this game, it was looking like the Defenders were going to take it, but, things took a turn in the second half, and the Defenders were able to hang on. I mean, the Stallions were able to hang on in this game. And you got to look at Matt Corral, 240 passing yards with a touchdown, along with 7 carries for 51 yards. He didn't even play last week, as we were talking about Martinez and how he did what he did last week to help the Stallions improve, because Matt Corral was a little banged up, but comes in and has the game of his season so far. This is the best production we've seen out of Matt Corral and what he's done, because, going with the 2 quarterbacks the first 2 weeks, even though they were getting wins, it wasn't pretty on offense. It was the defense that was carrying them. You got Amari Rogers with 4 receptions, 82 yards and a touchdown, along with Jay Sternberger alive again this week with 2 receptions for 50 yards. Ricky Person Jr. continues with 11 carries and 57 yards, along with Ramiz Ahmed's 46-yard field goal to contribute to 4 for 4 on field goals on the day, was what helped those Stallions get over the defenders 20-18. Jordan Ta'amu, 161 passing yards with 2 touchdowns. Stays hot, though, but not enough to get this defenders team over the Stallions. With 4 carries for 24 yards, he adds as well. The other bright spots for the defenders, the Kelvin Harmon 5-reception, 93-yard game on offense, along with the touchdown, was a bright spot. Along with the defenders' defense, 4 sacks with 2 fumble recoveries, kept this to where it was a 2-point game. But going back and forth in the second half there, Cool. You look at how it was at halftime, 11-6 Birmingham. It was a close game. And then they traded the score back and forth in the fourth quarter, going from 14-12 Birmingham to, going from 14-12 to 15-14 to 18-17 to 20-18 to finish this game. What was it like, whether watching this game live or catching the highlights? What was it like checking out the recap of this game as we recap it for the show?
So here's the thing about it. You're watching the game and you're hearing how there's, 2 fumbles in the red zone and a block punt for Birmingham, right? So you're like, ooh, that's the kind of play you should lose, right? If you 2 fumbles in the red zone and you get a punt block, you shouldn't win the game. But somehow Birmingham, with the help of Ramiz Ahmed, 4 on field goals, 46-yarder to win the game, really kept them in the game. He's a former Pittsburgh Maulers kicker. So you got a guy that comes in for the injured kicker, Chris Blewett, and basically is the reason why Birmingham wins this game. So, those are the type of performances you need, as well as the defense playing well, right, in order to try to mitigate when you have these turnovers and these mistakes. Because those are 3 bad mistakes. A block punt, that's a momentum killer. Turnovers in the red zone, fumbles, those are momentum killers. So you were able to stay the course, and still find a way to get you a win. So big ups to them for that. Matt Corral, like you said, had a great game. I love the fact that their coach is basically saying he doesn't know who's going to start next week because he's trying to make sure that both of his quarterbacks gets reps as NFL auditions. So, in case there's possible NFL auditions in their future. So I like the fact that he understands he's got guys that may be going to the NFL. So he's trying to say, hey, I need both of these guys ready to play because I don't know if both of them are going to be here, to finish the season. And then Corral coming in and having a really great performance after, not playing the week before. So you got this back and forth going, but both guys seem to be able to, when they get their opportunities, be out there and be ready to play. And they're being put in situations to be successful. So I like how Birmingham's kind of mitigating and managing everything that could be happening with understanding how the UFL works. I'm about to say the XFL, how the UFL works and how you have to have these guys ready because, they could be gone in a couple of weeks. So next guy up, let's get both of these guys ready in case one of these guys do get, that call up. We'll still have a guy that's a quality player to play quarterback for us. So smart move.
Absolutely. And, this was a cool game to watch as far as, it didn't rely on the 4th and 12 conversion, even though we've seen a lot of success from the 4th and 12 conversion throughout the league so far this year. It was nice to see a game as tight as it was, not rely on at least going for it in the gamble. We got to see some true hard-nosed football in this game. And a 2-point game, there's nothing to hang your heads on if you're the defenders. This was probably your best challenge throughout this season so far. A team that was 9-1 last year. They've had some changes too. I mean, they got Jordan Ta'amu back, but there's other weapons throughout their offense that are not the same as they were last year. So to do what they've been able to do and go 2-2 throughout the first month with the competition they've had, including the Stallions on this game right here, I think it's pretty respectable to start the season out so far. And, you still have another 6 weeks left of the regular season before we have the playoffs. But, I think that their 2-2 start is just as good as you look at the Battlehawks 3-1 and the Brahmas is 3-1 as well, because the Defenders games that they've lost, they could have gone either way. They could just as easily be 3-1 as they are 2-2 right now. So look at. Yeah, or 4-0, yeah. But I think our closest team that we would see to be potentially 4-0 would be the Brahmas, with how their production had been throughout the first month, and the one game they lost was pretty tight too. So who knows? I mean, but the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, we don't know where we'd be. But at the end of the day, we got what we got here for the first month, and it's looking pretty good. And Sick Diggy says, I'll be dropping ads as well. We'll drop them, Sick. Let's hear those ads. Let's hear those ads, Sick. Let's get it. Bring them on in. We'll see what you got out here in these streams. But when it comes to that, we've gone through the first segment of the show here with the opening drive. We're going to go ahead and take this into our first commercial break. But when we come back, we've got some more topics to unravel, as well as a preview for Week 5 in UFL on the other side after our first commercial break. We'll see you guys then.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2-on-2-on-2. Ready? Break.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network proudly presents The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson, live every weekday morning beginning April 29th at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids from the Block, New Edition, dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, go yourself again, Jason.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron news. For episode 34 today, UFL Week 4 recap has commenced. We are now on the other side of that. We got a couple comments here. It looks like mainly Six says, at Cool McCain is brought to you by Mile High Beards, the finest line of beer products out of the Rockies. Mile High Beards equals Mile High confidence. There you go, Sick Diggy. Already starting in hot. Keep them coming there, Sick. As I am rolling with fire today, as I'm liking this afternoon time that we are rolling with Total Football Talk here.
They say, go Nuggets.
Hey, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, they did pretty good against the Lakers in game 1. You know, we have to see how things commence. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the Nuggets got this round 1. I'm not even going to combat that. But we already know how the bronze sexuals out there are feeling already. We'll talk about that on a different show, different times. This is football talk. But I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys talk about within your programs when it comes to that for him. And he also throws in, and Philly's own Eagles cheesesteaks, the flyest cheesesteaks on the planet. Very well said there, so keep them coming. But when it comes to our next segment that we have the Gridiron Scoop, and we got some things to cover in that. Let's go ahead and roll it. Moving things into the NFL, the Texans GM Nick Caserio on running back Joe Mixon's trade. We're glad he's here, hopefully for a few more years. Will Mixon flourish with the change in scenery in 2024, or will the Texans be seeking options again at running back during the next offseason? How do you feel about that one there, Cool McCain?
I think Mixon's going to play well for them. But one of the things that we see now in the NFL that you need two running backs, right? Because injuries happen out of nowhere, matchups, what you're still able to bring. The more you play, the more you kind of seem to wear down for most running backs now. So I think they're going to get a good season out of him. But I think they're going to realize next offseason we probably do need to get another guy, like maybe through the draft. They may do it this year just to be that secondary back for him. But I think he's going to have a good year there. Joe Mixon was really pushed out of the offense, in Cincinnati, in my opinion. Like, he got opportunities, but he wasn't really what he had been a couple of years before with opportunities. Now, as running backs get older, they do wear down a little bit. We all are aware of that. But one of the ways you help that is you say, you know what? Get that other guy to run with him. So that way we're not putting as much wear and tear on our guys so we can keep him around a little bit longer. So I think the Houston Texans, to me, look like a very intelligently ran organization, which is crazy because 2 years ago, we were bird dogging these guys, talking about how they're all garbage. But you get the right coach, he gets at least a say probably in a lot of players that are brought in. So now you start to get the right type of players that identify with his personality, guys that he can mold, and they look to him and say, we're going to follow coach. And then you got your coordinators. So you're running things down the correct way. So you're adding a running back that you believe could be really good in your system, or you wouldn't get him because you had other options out there, right? So I think he's going to have a good year. It'll just all depend on, health, if they have that other guy to help out. And, if he's just confident and feels like, hey, this is my job to lose, I just got to go in here and get a job done, which I feel like all those things will be good for them this year. So I think he'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. He last year he did get over 1,000 rushing yards. He did have 9 touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns, nearly 400 reception. 400 yards, receiving as well. So he's more so on the ground, but he can help you out with the receiving as well. So it'd be interesting to see how things pan out with what they can do with him in this Texans offense. When you think about C.J. Stroud, had they had a more versatile running back there like Joe Mixon last year, they might have been able to advance a little bit further in the playoffs. And looking at that now, not throwing any knocks at what they had, but what they had wasn't previously historically known as something that was reliable. So that's the nicest thing I can say about their previous running back. But looking here, when it looks to Joe Mixon, he had some pretty solid years with the Bengals. 1,200 yards back in 2021. 2019 had over 1,100, as well as the year before that in 2018. So he's had 4 years over 1,000 rushing yards. So he's made his mark, and he deserves his money, and he deserves his opportunity here with the Texans. So it'll be interesting to see how things pan out with him in Houston. Going back to the UFL, the Michigan Panthers defensive back Kai Nakua records interceptions in consecutive games, going back to what we were talking about earlier in the opening drive. Will he remain a force throughout the remainder of this UFL season and forge his path towards a roster spot in the NFL in 2024?
I believe so, man. I believe, guys kind of get a taste of that. It's Puka's brother, so we know he has that athleticism in the family, right? So I think, you've got a guy like that can help you, help mold you, kind of work with you, give you tips as a wide receiver. So I think that he's headed toward the right path. Just keep going out there and doing what he's doing. I think he definitely can do it. And there's a lot of NFL teams that are looking for guys to play DB, that can go out and ball hawk that ball and make things happen. So keep doing what you're doing, Kai. And I think, we're going to see you on the NFL team. Maybe you'll end up on the rounds with your brother. They can use like 7 cornerbacks. They got like -5. So
I was thinking that too, because, putting the brothers together, it might even help Puka a little bit. It might even help him out with his chemistry. I mean, he has great chemistry with the team, but, it's an additional thing that would help him out. As far it seems like him and his family are tight. So to be able to play together on the same professional team would be a great experience. Just like the Kelseys, which they would have been able to do, but it just didn't quite work out with how it was with him with one being in Philly and the other one being in Kansas City. Just couldn't pull one away from either one's team. They're beloved enough by both teams. But in this situation here, where he hasn't really been able to make enough of a mark on the NFL team to lock himself in like Puka has, it'd be a great thing to see if he can move himself over to the Rams this upcoming season. Moving on to a team that my man Cool knows very, very well. Some news that came out last week, and I talked about it with Kyle on last week's episode, but I wanted to talk about it again because we've got a Eagles fan here, and of course to tailor some things towards some things that he definitely follows quite well. And wide receiver Devontae Smith agrees to a 3-year, $75 million extension. Cool. Is this a good move or bad move for the team's future? And will his production continue to pay dividends towards the team's growth?
This is an ingenious move. You're getting Devontae Smith 3 years later at the same salary that A.J. Brown's getting. And keep in mind, this is actually a 4-year deal because he's also getting that 5th-year option. It's been put in place. So he's getting that $15 million, not this year, but next year. Then after that, you get the 3-year 75. So this is actually like a 4-year, $90 million deal. So this is really good for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is one of the reasons why I was not crying and going on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere butthurt when we traded Hassan Reddick, because you've got to pay these guys, and there's only so much money to go around. And again, as I said before, Reddick is a great player. He's not made for the 3-4. So you get that money off the books. You turn around and use some of that money, probably not all of it, some of that money, to help get this contract for Devontae Smith, right? So this way you have him locked up, and then that $90 million is not fully guaranteed, of course, but that's the majority or the top end of what he can get if they make the Super Bowl every year. He's a Pro Bowler, all those different things. I think about, if I remember correctly, I haven't looked at it lately, but I think about 40 to 45 of it is actually guaranteed of the 3 years. And then, of course, the 15 is fully guaranteed. So this is a really good deal for the future. And as far as if he's going to do more, he's been working out. He's been hitting the weights. And, I mean, this is a small frame guy. He's never going to walk out there and look like A.J. Brown. But he's trying to, work on adding a little bit more muscle to the frame. Not a lot, but a little bit more. So I like the fact that he's doing that. He's taking this very seriously. He now has a daughter. So, when you had that first child, it's kind of like everything starts going off in your mind and you start wanting to just be even better. And I mean, he said he doesn't worry about the money. He lets the money handle itself. He prayed. He was good with this money. He's here to work. Him and AJ are really tight. So we got all these rumors about whatever. Him and AJ are really tight. They talk every day. They've even had times where they just put their 2 babies on FaceTime and just let them have baby talk with each other for about an hour and a half or whatever, just to build that bond between their kids, and and that's rare, but you get that sometimes where you got guys that really just want to play together and love playing together and love each other. So we've got that. This is definitely that second piece. You look at what Devontae Smith does. You put Devontae Smith on a lot of teams and he's their number 1 receiver, right? I'm not saying every team, because there are some guys better than him, but most teams, he's your number 1 receiver. So to get him again at the value that you got A.J. Brown 3 years ago or 2 years ago, that's big. So that also doesn't bring up that, A.J. only got 20 and Devontae got 25. No, it's the same contract. So you don't have to worry about any of that either. So Philadelphia media, I need y'all to stop, because y'all are the only ones with this crap. It's the only people we hear talking about A.J. Brown being traded. He's been on your station and told you, I'm not going anywhere. So just stop it. Let these guys play together. Let's get this dub this year that we should have gotten last year, but we blew it up and stunk the last part of the season. So I'm happy that Smitty's with the team for 4 more years. It's time to get right out on the field.
No, I mean, it's arguably that the A.J. Brown trade to the Eagles enhanced the talents of Devontae Smith. I mean, he's made him better. He's built him up,
Absolutely.
And you don't, and like you were saying, it's not something that you see that often because before AJ Brown came to the team, Devontae Smith only had 916 yards in his rookie year, which I mean, it's still, it's not as much as he's had since AJ Brown's been there, but his rookie year, he did have 916 yards for 5 touchdowns, which is still solid for your rookie season. But then when A.J. Brown comes to the team, Devontae Smith increases that in the second year in 2022 with 1,196 yards and 7 receiving touchdowns in 17 games. Last year, he played in 1 less game, but still had 1,066 yards and 7 touchdowns. So Devontae Smith is definitely had been reaping the benefits of having someone like A.J. Brown in the locker room and has been like a mentor to him. Even though A.J. Brown, looking at him, he's not much older than him. He's only been in the league 2 more years than Devontae Smith. So they're still close enough in age to where they're it's kind of like a little bit of an older brother and a younger brother. Like they'd be going to school. This is like watching the best of like what 2 kids would be doing in high school football, yet it's on one of the biggest stage in professional football. And you, my man, are lucky enough to see that when you got 1A and 1B on both sides of your offense there. It's a beautiful thing. And more teams out there would love to have that type of situation when it comes to now you got a solid running back. You got Saquon. If you can stay healthy, you got a solid running back. You got solid wide receivers. Yeah, big if. And, your tight end's pretty solid too. And depending on how they replace Kelsey, that's going to be the biggest question mark that I say that it has to be filled because that's the centerpiece of your line. That's the biggest connection between the quarterback and the center is, getting the ball snapped right with the time. Timing is everything. Chemistry with the other players on the offensive line. So if that right there can get figured out this offseason between the draft, free agency, and what they develop in training camp and preseason, you got something pretty special depending on how your head coach, if he behaves and how all that goes based on what we saw last year. But that's other things we could talk about another time. But when it comes to Devontae Smith, I would have to say it's a good move as well. I'd have to agree with it because of the things that you just said. And like I just said about how you got somebody there like A.J. Brown who's built him up to where even at some point if they got separated and Devontae Smith stayed or he was the one that left, like you said, he could be easily the number 1 receiver for another team. So just like A.J. Brown could. But you luckily have the 2 best wide receivers that could possibly be representing either a team A or team B on one team. So it's awesome to watch. And I got to give you your kudos there. It's unfortunate for me because it's a rival of a team that I like, and I have to see them 2 times a year. But it's interesting, too, because you want to see your competition be at the best level that they can be, especially there, and test your defense out because defense is key for football as well. And with the Commanders having a pretty solid defense, historically better than their offense at many points of their years, that's been at least a fun thing to watch over the past few seasons. But hopefully, for my team at least, things can get a little bit more balanced out. But for yours, I'd say it's a good move. You address the running back situation. You address the wide receiver situation here with Devontae Smith. And don't you fret. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Eagles here in a little bit here when we get to the next segment. Now, following that one, the Birmingham Stallions defense has been decimating their opponents throughout the first 4 weeks. Will any UFL offense be able to move the chains enough to serve a loss to this team this season? What are your thoughts with this one?
So it's hard because you're going to have to be on, right? You're going to have to make no mistakes against this defense, and they cause you to make mistakes. Somebody's going to have enough time and a good enough game plan. It's probably not who we're going to expect, but somebody. I mean, I can't say like a certain team because when you're looking at them and looking at everybody else, there's no one team you can say, oh, yeah, if they play this team, it's going to be a problem for them. But someone's going to have the right game plan. They're going to be able to use their aggressiveness against them, do some things like where you're running one way, then you run it back the other way, pump faking, doing different things to cause that aggressiveness in the defense to be something they can use against them. But it's going to be hard. If we're talking about a team that's probably going to win the championship as of right now, the Stallions was the team that you'd have to talk about, obviously undefeated. Defense playing really well, but it's still a long season, so there's still plenty of time to go. So we may be at a point in a couple of weeks where we're saying, hey, somebody got the Stallions. Can somebody else get them? Or is it just that one game where the Stallions just kind of let the guard down a little bit? They didn't come with as much like mojo, as much fire because of where they're at. But it's going to be hard. Not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult to do.
And I agree with you on that one too. And I think that their toughest matchup that they're going to have is in week 7 against the Battlehawks, at least for the remainder of the season. You know, week 7 against the Battlehawks is going to be a tough matchup for the Stallions. And then when you look at week 9, when they travel to San Antonio, if they don't lose to the Battlehawks in week 7, which, I mean, it's a home game for the Stallions. So that's why I think that they might have the edge against the Battlehawks in week 7. But looking at the rest of their schedule throughout this 10-week season, I'm thinking that their biggest threat between those two teams is going to be the Brahmas in week 9. And that's going to be in San Antonio. So it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out because, you know, now that they've got the offense clicking a little bit over the past 2 weeks, you know, they've had 2 different quarterbacks, but between Martinez and Corral, the Stallions offense has been clicking over the past 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks, it was pretty much the defense as they were rotating 2 quarterbacks, and you're getting a lackluster production, in my opinion, between the 2 when you should have just gone with 1. Over the past 2 weeks, the team has gone with primarily 1 quarterback at the helm, and you've seen a major difference in consistency and play between both quarterbacks. And now that Matt Corral came back the way that he did, I think it's solidified his place as a starting quarterback. But at the same time, when you got Martinez doing what he's doing, you know, you don't want to leave him out either. So it's a tough situation when you have that 2 quarterbacks set up there for them. But it's going to be interesting to see between, you know, like you were saying earlier with NFL teams poaching players away, if that becomes a factor with the Stallions, which why wouldn't it? Because they're the best team in the league right now on both sides, actually all 3 phases when you add special teams into the equation. So looking at all that there, it's going to be interesting to see how the Stallions are formidable throughout the remainder of the next 6 weeks and what they can do in these playoffs this season. And lastly, for our Gridiron Scoop, Jets general manager Joe Douglas still open to trading quarterback Zach Wilson, but acknowledges that he is an asset. Are you buying the statement of Wilson being an asset to the team, or is it just a tactic to potentially increase his trade value?
Drew, I'm going to need you to cue up something for me if you have it.
Okay.
It's by Bishop Bullwinkle.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
You're never going to say a player is not an asset, but we all know Zach Wilson is not an asset. Stop it.
I think that I'm going to have to second that.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Because if you trade for Zach Wilson and plan on making him your starting quarterback, get ready to see this a lot each week. It's kind of like it's wild. I can't believe that any team, if they do, maybe give up a 7th round pick, but you're going to more than likely either be eating that contract for Zach Wilson for a little bit, or you're going to be releasing him and still have some dead money on the cap. So either way, you kind of screw the pooch when it comes to this situation with old Zach Wilson. Without further ado, it's our time to acknowledge who Cool and I think is our grand champ of the week.
Total football talk.
Where my dogs at? It is time for the grand champ pick for the dog of the week there, Cool McCain. And with that being said, who is your choice for the dog of the week?
I am going to simply go with Kai Nakua. I like what he's doing. I like him starting to be consistent, being aggressive, reading the offense, reading the quarterback, learning how to, get those plays, get those turnovers that are making your team better, because you can change the game on a turnover. You can be down by 21 points. You get a turnover, you get the points, you get the momentum going in your direction. Now the other quarterback's looking like, I can't throw at that dude. So now he's not throwing near Kai, So now the other people have a chance to bat down balls, try to get turnovers as well. So I think what he's doing is showing an ascension of a player in the UFL, and which is still weird for me to say. But I really like Kai Nakua and what he's doing, especially over the course of the season. But he's definitely going to be my grand champ this week, and hopefully he keeps it up. I'd love to see him make that jump.
I liked it. I like that pick for Kai Nakua this week, and that's a very solid pick. For mine, I'm going to go to the offensive side since you selected someone from the defensive side, and you can easily pick AJ McCarron, who had 222 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, 8 touchdowns on the season. But I think I'm going to go with a different player at quarterback, one who stepped in for a hurt quarterback for a team that was 2-1 coming into this week, and that being Quentin Dormady of the San Antonio Brahmas. Leads this team to a 19-9 victory over the Michigan Panthers, who, even though they're 2-2, they are no slouch when it comes to team out here in the USFL. They've been playing pretty decent. And, of course, they've had Jake Bates, who's kept them close in games with those 2 victories as he keeps socking field goals each week. But Quentin Dormady comes in, filling in for Chase Garbers, who had led the San Antonio Brahmas to a 2-1 record, getting hurt in the previous week, and throws for nearly 300 passing yards, which one thing we've seen in the UFL this year already is inconsistencies with passing yards, like seeing less than 200 yards per game for most of the quarterbacks, except for like AJ McCarron and Luis Perez, who might topple over a little over 200 yards. But to get 269 passing yards and do what he did in this game, got to give a major shout out to Quentin Dormady for my pick for Dog of the Week. And with that being said, I appreciate it, brother. Like I said, we got a great pick here with Kai Nakua, Puka Nakua's brother, who, isn't holding on to the coattails by that name. He's building his own path, forging his own path out here in football on the defensive side. His brother's doing the offense. But for what they're doing, the Nakua brothers are doing great things so far in this past year of the professional football in the NFL and UFL. And now we have, of course, Quentin Dormady, who hopefully, if he can stay consistent, can fill those shoes pretty well for Garbers, and the Brahmas can stay alive and make a playoff run this year. And it'd be pretty sweet to see the Rocks team, the Brahmas, holding the UFL championship in the first year of the UFL. I know it's a stretch because you still have the Stallions, who are red hot, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do in the remainder of this year. And with that being said, we're going to do this to our last commercial break before we get to our last couple segments to round out this episode of Total Football Talk.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated, creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening,
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern,
exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. $, D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie the bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen, stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. Slide some Willie bucks.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central on the Sertoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers, right side, commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, commanders.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are back for episode 34, the UFL Week 4 recap. We've done that. We've gone through our first slate of topics here, and now we've got some comments in the chat we got to acknowledge before we go any further in this show. It looks like Mickey Delaney is in the house, says, hi, everyone. Well, what's up,
Mickey?
Mickey with his shenanigans and things he says out here in the streams is wild sometimes. You got to keep an eye on Mick, the comment cop sometimes, but he is definitely a dedicated subscriber to us, so we appreciate you there, Mickey Delaney. Even Ike says, what's up, Mick? Along with Sick Diggy saying, hey, Mickey Delaney. And then we've got this. Drew Willingham is brought to you by Peanut Butter and Jealous. Brand new daiquiri strawberry and crushed velvet grape flavors. When in doubt, this summer, spread some peanut butter and Jealous. And Sleazeballs Meaty Subs, now available in both chicken salad and smoked turkey options. Sleazeball Meaty Subs, don't beat the meat. Don't toss a salad. Just enjoy the subs. Sick, I'm feeling it today. I really like this new time frame that we got going on in the afternoon. Looking forward to when Cole comes back, and I definitely appreciate Cool McCain and Kyle Nash and then Rob Johnson from a few weeks back. All of you guys filling in to make this show still flow while Cole takes a little bit of a time to reprieve to get some things in order. And looking forward to him coming back. But yeah, the ads. I think Cole would appreciate how I'm reading them today. Like I'm feeling it today, guys. I'm feeling it. Here with Cool McCain. It's been great. A fun day. We got some more things to cover in this show. Let's go ahead and take this to our next segment here and take this into the chopping block. So we got some topics to discuss with you guys. Here with the chopping block. Starting it out, we go back to the UFL. And, football fans are not sold on the UFL after poor performance in 2024 season. This league is done. The USFL ruined the XFL, fans said. Could these lackluster numbers and negative feedback by football fanatics affect the league's future beyond this season? I know we've seen some exciting play there, Cool McCain, here throughout the first 4 weeks and in certain games. And you and I, as football enthusiasts, along with Cole Johnson, we're looking at it in one light, but we got to look at it, respectively when it comes to the numbers and the viewership on TV and the attendance to the games. When you put all that in perspective, does this fan have something to chime about?
So it does have a point, right? Like you said, there are certain people who are going to watch. USFL fans are going to like this more than XFL fans, right? You contracted teams. My team in both leagues was contracted, right? So I don't actually have a team. So I'm watching because, like you said, love football, but I don't have like that fanatical feel about the XFL, USFL merger into this UFL thing, just because I enjoyed the XFL more, the way that they played the sport more. And they've adapted some of those things, but it just doesn't feel the same. So I think the XFL had a name that was more synonymous because it was doing really well before COVID, right? Like it was picking up, the team was doing really well. COVID happened. We know what happened with that. I really think that The Rock and Danny Garcia sold out too early. Like if I'm really putting it 100% honest, they sold out too early. I think another year and you could have just grabbed the USFL and brought it over to the XFL side. I understand you lost money, but whenever you start new businesses, you lose money. That's just kind of how it goes, right? We podcast. When we first started doing podcasts, we had to pay for stuff. We didn't have any money coming in yet, so we were losing money. Some of us might still be losing money because we still might not have any money coming in. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to weather the storm because the XFL, to me, had the better presentation, the better product for a spring league, because you don't want that to feel like the NFL. I don't need to see NFL Europe again. I want to see something that has some things where NFL guys can look at and say, okay, there's people we can get from this league, but it has some unique things, some differences. The XFL had that more than USFL. They kind of merged. A lot of those things went to the wayside. I like the team names and things a lot better for the XFL for me. But at the same time, I'm going to give it a chance. But if I'm a guy who really loved the XFL and I'm not doing shows and just watching because I love to watch sports, especially this time of season. You know, I harped on it the last time I was here. You got the NFL, you got the NBA playoffs. You started at the end of March Madness. You're hitting a point where there's other things that are going to pull people away, where they're not going to come to your games. I understand you have a certain window to get it in, but you got to figure out a better way to manage it. And also, we had Mr. Johnson, instead of having on his 54th man jersey this year, he was over being the final boss in the WWE.
Which we're not complaining about.
No. We're not complaining as wrestling fans, but you might have wanted to slide over to some of those UFL games on Sundays and put on your 54th man jersey. And kind of got some hype going with that too, because I think losing The Rock, as well as the time that you're doing it, as well as the fact that it feels like, I've talked to a lot of XFL fans and personally myself as well, it feels like you sold out too early and you gave up before you really needed to. So there's a lot of disappointment from the XFL side. And I said that they were going to end up merging, but I thought it was going to be the XFL absorbing the USFL. They did it a little early. And I think a lot of people are pissed off about it. And I think this XFL fan has a very great point, because you're not getting the same quality of product off the actual field that you were getting with the XFL. I think that's what a lot of people are ticked off about.
Yeah, and you bring up a lot of solid points, especially with other sports getting in the way. You know, like you said, you know, The Rock doing the Final Boss act and for WrestleMania, and the way the UFL was even scheduled around WrestleMania. We were talking about that a couple weeks ago, about the fact that they had, you know, WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday, and you got a UFL game at 7:00 on a Saturday night, like around the time that the WrestleMania is kicking off for the 2-night event. So to me, you hurt yourself right there. You shot yourself in the foot. I mean, if The Rock's really overlooking this whole thing, he should have saw that right there, like whether he was participating in WrestleMania or not, because there's been a bunch of eyes that he's been able to bring over from the WWE side too. He should have thought like, hey, we're going to be watching WrestleMania. We're not going to be watching UFL right now. And especially the teams that were playing at that time. You could have had the best two teams playing in the UFL and nobody would have cared, because they wouldn't be watching WrestleMania or March Madness at that time. Or like you said, NBA is heating up and now we're in the playoffs. So looking at how things are, I mean, the way that they've sold spring football, I don't think you can really put it anywhere else in the year, because like I mentioned, when UFL week 1 kicked off, from that point forward through the rest of the year, you have football each and every single week, because you have the CFL that starts up towards the end of the UFL season, and CFL overlaps into NFL a little bit. So looking at that, Total Football Talk has got football to talk about every single week. The question is, even though we got some loyal supporters out here who are checking us out, you know, week in and week out, there might not be the same amount of people that are feeling the same way when it comes to watching football. And I see your point with that. You know, I think that things might have shifted a little bit potentially for me had the DC Defenders not been in there, because, you know, that's the team I follow because they are close with the Commanders in the area and everything. But regardless of that, you know, you got people out there like Kyle Nash who still follow it, and he was, you know, following the Orlando Guardians, going to those games and covering that, and he's still covering it. So, you know, for like yourself and Kyle and me who love football, and Cole as well, we're going to watch it in at least anything, if we didn't get a chance to watch it because we were watching basketball or something else, watch the highlights and get enough of an idea to see what's still going on to stay up to date with it. But maybe not everybody's doing the same thing because you got, even though LeBron's going to probably get eliminated in the first round, you still got him playing. People are all hype over talking about him being the GOAT and all that stuff, which we're not even going to get into that topic here on Total Football Talk. But going into this with the attendance, though, and what Cool was saying, I agree with you wholeheartedly. What you got, brother?
So I gotta bust some news out on you, D Willie.
Oh, you got some breaking news? You got some breaking
news. Ladies and gentlemen, Jets QB Zach Wilson has been traded to the Broncos for a late round pick swap, and the Jets and Broncos are going to split his $5.5 million guaranteed salary for 2024.
Wow. So during the episode, I'm glad we had that topic earlier, and because this just broke right now. So hey, we had that topic just in time as we were live, and we can recap with that. I might have to make some clips out of that based on what we said in your breaking news. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This was your
And just to give a little bit more detail, the Jets are getting a 6th round pick number 203. The Broncos are getting pick number 256 and Zach Wilson. So they don't, you don't get a lot, but at least you get a 6th round pick for him, and you get to split his salary for this year. So yeah, I mean, he's the best quarterback the Broncos have right now, and it's not saying a lot, but
so the Jets had to give up a pick too.
Yeah, they gave up him and pick number 256 to get pick 203.
So they did a pick swap to move up 53 picks and get rid. So basically just got rid of him. You moved up 53 picks.
What we said earlier.
Yeah. And because earlier, like we were saying, I was like, yeah, you might be able to get a 7th round pick for him, but this way, at least you move up 53 spots, you get rid of them, and you still got to split the salary. But hey, I mean, it could be worse.
Half is better than all. So
the question is who are they going to bring in for their backup? And because you got to have a solid backup because you don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers.
You still got to draft a quarterback.
As old as Aaron Rodgers is now, yeah, because even if he does play for 2 seasons, you need to have a developmental plan, and he couldn't develop. So he was trying to do that with Zach Wilson, but unfortunately, he didn't have enough time. Had Aaron Rodgers stayed healthy, we could potentially see Zach Wilson still here and developing him. But he was thrown to the wolves again, and we saw what we saw out of it. But
hit him up again.
Yeah, so we'll see how things go for him with the Broncos. I'm not so sure that he's going to be the answer though in time, but Sean Payton's got some things to talk about and figure out over there in Denver. But with that being said,
planning to do as well.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And speaking of the Broncos, their backup quarterback, Ben DiNucci, I don't know how much of a backup he'll be after this trade, but he suggests that the NFL adopts the UFL as a developmental league. Enticing as it sounds, should the NFL consider the move, especially when considering the negative feedback thus far in the 2024 UFL season?
I wouldn't do it right now, but what I would do is possibly sit down with guys and say, look, here's some changes I think you guys could make to make us possibly connect with you, to kind of pull more people into you and help you be somewhere to be like a direct link to the NFL, kind of like the XFL was, right? Like last year, they had a deal in place where basically they had the NFL could come grab guys out of the league with no problem, and they were helping develop some guys and everything for the NFL. But then again, half of those teams are gone, some of those players are gone. So you could try to get that back, but I don't think it would be this year. I think you're going to have to show better I guess for lack of a better word, better attendance, better viewership for the NFL to want to kind of go over there and kind of grab you up and build you up. Because it's the same thing as the WNBA being connected to the NBA, right? That helps the WNBA. It helps the numbers. It helps everything, right? You don't have that. You don't have that financial backing. You don't have that juggernaut behind you. NFL is a juggernaut. This UFL is not. But we never know what could happen if they start getting more guys that may be like on practice squads for the NFL and guys like that. It could help build a league. So we'll see. But I wouldn't do it at the current time because, like you said, it's a lot of negative pushback. It's like, you know, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay there. Not going to do it.
Well, I mean, you look at it how in 91, NFL created NFL Europe, right? And they had it going for 16 years, so 2007, and it folded. I mean, that was outside the U.S. It's a little different, but, you know, they're probably thinking – I mean, when you look at it historically, NFL Europe drew better numbers, you know, throughout the first decade than what we've seen between the XFL and the USFL since they've been reincarnated. For enthusiasts like us, I mean, it's cool to see spring football at times when there's nothing else on TV for those out there who are kind of flopping back between that and basketball and other things. But to actually have a developmental league like they had with NFL Europe, which developed other players, like I think Kurt Warner played in NFL Europe along with Arena Football League. So when you've got, you know, other players who benefited from that, you know, you can see that, but there was a smaller percentage of players benefiting from NFL Europe back then. I think that potentially now, if they do it the right way, if they did take this on as somewhat of a minor league setup with the UFL, I think that they could better develop them because they got better technology now for one, better health awareness, better things to help with the development of like recovering from injuries. There's a whole lot of different things that when you had NFL Europe, it was a much smaller scale and they didn't have the resources that you have now 30 years later after the creation of the NFL Europe. So there's a lot of different things at play that we could see that would be beneficial. I think Danucci has a good idea here, and it's something that's been tossed about by other people throughout the past 2 years since all this stuff was created for spring football. But now that we have the merger between the USFL and the XFL, it's all combined into one. I think that we are more likely in the future to see this happen than we would have been if this was discussed when everything was recreated a few years back. So it's a very solid point you throw out there. It's going to be interesting to see how they go through with this going forward and if it's something that they're seriously considering over there for the big shield over there for the NFL.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And lastly, for the chopping block, for our last topic here, we're going to go back to a team that my man Cool McCain is wearing on his head right now, a team that he's got on his championship belt behind him, a team that he follows through and through more so other than any other team that he follows in his collegiate or sports following career. When it comes to this, Patriots reportedly have reached out to the Eagles about blockbuster trade involving A.J. Brown. Do you believe this move would benefit both teams if it takes place? And if so, what should the Patriots give up to balance the trade? Cool. I see you there. And you're here. Am I here? We're floating along out here in these streams. Hopefully, there he is. He's having a little bit of connectivity issues or whatnot right now, but when he gets back here in a second, we will bring him back for the answer to that question. But Cool McCain, that question is definitely geared for you, but I'm going to at least say for myself that he's going to like the answer that he gives, or like this question and the way he's going to answer when he comes back, because we were just talking earlier about Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and the importance between having a 1A and a 1B on your team right there, and how A.J. Brown has helped develop Devontae Smith. When you look right here at this question that I posed, and I'll even say it again, the Patriots reportedly have reached out to the Eagles about a blockbuster trade involving A.J. Brown. And, you know, my question that I posed to Cool McCain was, do you believe that this move would benefit both teams if it takes place? And so, would the trade be balanced for both teams, pretty much? And, you know, my opinion, we were just talking earlier about how important having a 1A and 1B for the Eagles was with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. But if you move A.J. Brown to the Eagles, of course, from the Eagles to the Patriots, of course, the Patriots have been lacking a top-tier receiver for many years now. And with the unknowns over there at quarterback, with, of course, you got rid of Mac Jones this offseason. He's now in Jacksonville. You're making some moves. You got Jacoby Brissett back in there in your depth chart, but you're probably going to be drafting the heir apparent when you look at who's going to be the new quarterback for the Patriots. He started his career there, and it looks like he may end his career there potentially. But Brissett is back, and he may be taking over the reins to start off this season, right? But I don't think he's going to be the long-term answer, even though he's still fairly young. Looking at Jacoby Brissett, 31 years old. By the time we get to the season, he'll be turning 32 in December. So he's still got some time, and he hasn't been banged up so much. He showed flashes of what he could do last year with the Commanders in the small action that he had there. When he played with the Colts as well, he had some decent flashes there. But can he be the guy that gets the ball to someone like an A.J. Brown, to someone other than that if they make other moves? I don't know. Patriots especially, they got some question marks with their new head coach there, and it's going to be a little bit, interesting to see if they can pull off this trade. But with Cool McCain back in the house, with this question here, and I'll ask it, again, with the Eagles potentially doing a blockbuster trade involving the Patriots because they've been reached out to them by the Patriots involving A.J. Brown. Do you think this move would benefit both teams if it took place? And if so, the Patriots, should they give up? What would they give up to balance the trade?
No, we're not gonna do this. Just stop it, media. We're not gonna do this. Okay, A.J. Brown is not being traded. They called. The Eagles said H to the no. Okay, it's not happening. It's not a trade that's gonna work. They're not wanting to part ways with A.J. Brown. Of course, you're going to call when you hear the rumors from the stupid Philadelphia media. They've been doing this all off season. He's called the radio station and said, I don't have a problem with the team. I don't have a problem with the coaching staff. Everybody wants him there. Howie said he wants him there, right? Devontae wants him there. He's best friends with the starting quarterback. Come on, guys. Like, this is what I say why the media just gets on my nerves sometimes, because they just start these things that are unnecessary. It's not going to happen. The package that the Philadelphia Eagles would want, first of all, the Patriots are probably not going to want to give up, because you're going to have to give up a first-round pick for the next couple of years if we're even pretending to discuss this. This is one of the, in my opinion, top 5 wide receivers in the league. You're going to just let him walk away with knowing you're not going to be able to probably get a guy to replace him unless you're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. He may not be ready year one to be a main contributor on a championship team. You have the guys that you need. Philadelphia is attempting to win championships right now. You're not going to trade away your best wide receiver, your most physical wide receiver, your receiver that can run all the routes, make all the catches in traffic, yards after catch, all that. He's not going anywhere. Nice try, Patriots, but piss on y'all.
A.J. Brown's only, 1 year into his 4-year deal. He's got 3 years left, through 2026. 4-year, $100 million deal, of course, with the bonuses and everything. Each year, it equates to, he got a signing bonus of $23 million, but he's got $57 million guaranteed, an average annual salary of $25 million, looking at all that. But, it's a lot of money. And it'd be a lot of money for somebody to take. And I can guarantee you that if the Eagles made a trade with A.J. Brown, they would not be paying half of his remaining salary like they are in New York, with the Jets paying half of Wilson's salary we just talked about. So we put all that in perspective, and you think about, there's a lot of money that's involved. We just talked about earlier in the show about Devontae Smith and how he got his money too, and they want to see how things go with the 1A and the 1B there, along with a new running back, and hopefully beefed up the offensive line with the absence of Kelsey. And, in the next year or so, you're going to be losing Lane Johnson because he's up there in age too. So you got 2 big roster spots you got to fill. and do your homework on when it comes to the draft and trades and free agency over the course of the next 12 to 18 months, it looks like. So when I put all that in perspective and think about it, I don't think that the Eagles would have given A.J. Brown his money a year or so ago if they were seriously considering, blockbuster trades from other teams that, one of it's got to be including that the Patriots, if they did make this trade, would have to assume the entirety of the contract, for one, as far as the pay. And for two, like you said, they'd have to give up something ridiculous, like several first-round picks, because of the amount of production that the Eagles have gotten out of him, let alone what he did before he got to Philadelphia. So, he is all that clout definitely makes a difference when it comes to negotiations and trades, and especially in pay. He's already got it in the pay, and now you'd have to get something substantial enough to make the move. I am with you. I think the media is spinning up some stuff out there, but it was something that was worthwhile enough to bring up and discuss with you because, hey, it's an Eagles topic. It's something that people are talking about, and it'll be something to be interesting to see if it does. So, like you said, a lot of first-round picks, a lot of compensation for it. I don't think it would be worth it for any other team to give up that because, you look at what the Rams did to give up Matt Stafford, and they took a step back, even though it looks like they're climbing up again a little bit. But they hit hard after that year, after that Super Bowl year. So we'll see how things pan out. But other than that, Cool is back here with his setup or whatnot. Got him back on in the house. But other than that, when it comes to the Eagles, we're going to see some moves over the course of this week with the draft. We got the draft in a few days. We'll touch on that here at the end. But I don't think that any trade, maybe for a wide receiver, is going to come from Philadelphia. Potentially San Francisco with Ayuk. We'll talk about that at the end with the closing thoughts. But right now, I'm going to go with no either when it comes to this situation and A.J. Brown.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And next, we have to pick our snowflake of the week.
Total football talk.
Oh, yeah, it's that time for the snowflake of the week. And with that being said, who was the worst thing, whether it was the offense, defense, special teams, or an individual player, what was the worst performance you saw in football this past week? Cool McCain.
So, me, I always go a different way. So I'm going to go with the XFL's numbers.
Ooh.
Those are the snowflakes of the week. The problem is, again, the UFL's numbers. The problem is you picked a time of year that's really bad. I understand you want to do spring football, but you picked a time of year that's really bad. You got baseball starting, right? You got playoffs for the NBA. You've got preseason about to come for the WNBA. You've got March Madness when you start. So there's a lot of things against you, like you talk about WrestleMania. If you're into other sports, you just had PLEs or pay-per-views, depending on who calls it what, for TNA and AEW this weekend. So a lot of things happening in this time frame. And for that to be the time frame that you also want to have the UFL product out, it's not really looking good. Now, an affiliation with like the NFL, that could help, right? That's not going to happen this year because you don't have the numbers for the NFL to want to say, let's go get them. So I don't understand what they're doing. I really don't. The merger I get on some levels, but just time of year, numbers, all those things, y'all are my snowflake. Period. Gotta be better.
That was a great pick. You went with the entire league. You went with the entire league's numbers. I don't know if I can top that. That's gonna be tough. But when it comes to my pick, I'm gonna go with the Arlington Renegades, just the entire team. Because you look at what they did last year, they were 4-6 for the season, a lackluster record, but they were still good enough to make the playoffs in their division. And they made the best of it getting hot in the playoffs. I don't think that the way this league is set up this year, they're going to have that opportunity to suck as bad and get in. Like, you're already down 0-4. If you lose, if you go the rest of the next 6 weeks ago 4-2. I just don't see you making the playoffs again with a 4-6 record for one, and I don't even see you being as good as 4-6 this year. It's that bad. I mean, looking at this team right here, the rushing attack is what's been hurting this team, with Luis Perez still slinging nearly 1,000 yards for the first 4 weeks, but you've got your running backs totaling 40 yards on 18 attempts. Again, that's 40 yards on 18 attempts. That's a little over 2 yards per carry, 2.2 yards per carry. Their longest rush of the day was 7 yards. So when you take that out of the equation, that is 17 rush attempts for 33 yards. It's even worse. So when I think about all that, the fact that this man has hardly any help on this team, Luis Perez being that quarterback who did pretty well enough last year, his receiving core isn't horrible. He's got 5 receivers who had double-digit yards for the day, whether it was one catch or several catches on one. So when I think about all that, the fact that the defense itself is not playing horrible. They could be a little bit better, but they had 3 sacks on the day and had nearly 60 tackles on the day. So they're doing their job for the most part. They held the other team to 17 points, even though it's the Roughnecks, who also came into this game 0-3. But when I really think about the Renegades, and I even said it last week, I thought 0-3 was enough to put the fork in them and they were done, talking with Kyle last week. And now talking with you, I'm definitely going to say that them being 0-4 at this point now, and the running attack can be arguably the contributing factor to why they're 0-4, because the defense is one way, they're up and down, but they remain consistent within a window of what they can do. The quarterback is the same way. We look at what he's done production-wise with the passing and the touchdown to interception ratio. But the running game has been hurting other teams in the UFL this season, and it's been hurting this team tremendously with their lackluster performance. You go with the league and the numbers, but when you got a team playing like this, it surely isn't helping when it comes to the attendance for that team, but also the viewership on the TV. When you got a team playing that bad, they're playing primetime, and yesterday, on Sunday, it was the only game on yesterday because you had the other 3 games on Saturday. It's the only game to watch. It's your only option. And you got other things going on like basketball and stuff too, and people who like even NASCAR, right? Like you got that going on at the same time. So when you got that, you got 2 0-3 teams playing. And not only that, when you're going into halftime, when you're literally going into halftime, it's an 11-3 game. And it's 2 0-3 teams playing, but the Roughnecks are up 11-3. The Renegades have only put up field goals so far in the game. This just goes along with what I'm saying. They can't move the ball on the ground, which is why they can't put up more than 3 points at a time hardly. So looking at it right there, going on a rant pretty bad on this team today, but I can't say it enough, and I can say it again. 0-4 will not get you in the playoffs. It will not get you a championship. And you absolutely suck for taking 4 straight. When it comes to the Renegades, Cool McCain, they need to
stop it. Get some help.
Because the past 4 weeks, when it comes to not having a running game, it's not a total
surprise, motherfucker.
That just suck. That just suck. Because survey says facts, bro. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was our snowflake pick of the week. Oh, I hit the wrong one, but it's all good. But anyway, when it comes to it does happen. It happens to the best of us. But, going into the next one, we've got the 2-minute drill. We got the 2-minute drill where we got to talk about the 4 games that we got this upcoming weekend, whether, there are those up there who aren't that excited about it or not. And Damian Hernandez is in the house and says the NFL needs to have a regulated league now that XFL and USFL is here.
It should be that one. He's not wrong. It should be that one.
It should. And I'll even give you this.
Yeah.
I love it.
Throw a little wrestling up there from my man Cool McCain up there. But when you got that, we got Mick going back in here saying, "What up, Sick Diggy?" along with "How are you, Ike?" Looks like you're staying in your lane from what he's saying. So Yeah, I'll definitely agree to that there as well. But Damian, definitely a good point up there. I think he threw that up there on he threw that up there on YouTube as well. So thank you for tuning in there, Damian. Looks like on I think that's your channel right there, the Play Callers. So awesome. Thank you very much for tuning in there, Damian. But other than that, we got the 2-minute drill that we're gonna look at the recap or the preview for this upcoming week in the team. And with the 2-minute drill, starting out with the game that's Saturday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern time. There's 2 games this Saturday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern time that you will have to check your local listings for the availability between the 2. But the San Antonio Brahmas are 3-1 now, traveling to the Arlington Renegades, who are 0-4, a team that I just went off on during my Snowflake pick of the week. Saturday, 7:00 p.m. Eastern time. 3-1 Brahmas, 0-4 Renegades. Who you got there, Cool McCain? Cool is frozen. He is frozen in time. Cool is frozen in here. And I'm not Cole Johnson, but I can sing on a whim sometime. And I'm gonna sing and say that he's not here right now. That is Cool McCain. And I'm singing when you're looking for shenanigans.
You got the right one, baby.
And he's back. Now.
Man. Sometimes your own internet be working against you, man. It's crazy.
It's all good. You know how they are. They probably maybe the CCP didn't like what I was talking about with the infrastructure hit on the U.S. last night and D. Will in the evening. But who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know. But
probably not, sir.
Yeah, probably not. But it was funny. But anyway, when it comes to the 2-minute drill, you got the 3-1 Brahmas, the 0-4 Renegades. Who is your pick for this first game at 7:00 on Saturday?
We're gonna go with the Brahma Bulls.
The Brahma Bulls. Like, how bad? Do you see this being a beatdown considering the fact that the Renegades are 0-4, can't establish a running game, and they gave up 17 points to the Roughnecks?
Yes.
I think it'll be like the Battlehawks 32-17 win, or it'll be worse than that.
I think that they're going to come out and Trick Williams is in the background.
Oh, Trick is going to show up and whoop that Trick.
Yeah. It's going to be playing in the back. Get him.
I think I'm going to download that song now. It could be like.
I already have it downloaded.
It could be like this. They're coming.
1, 2, you hear the clock tick. You about to stop living. I want you to remember me. But the dead don't have no memory. I'm coming. Nobody stop.
That's how it's gonna be. That's how it's gonna be when they show up this weekend in Arlington. I'm gonna have to go with that. I'm gonna actually give a prediction for the score. I'm gonna go with 36-16. I'm gonna say that the Renegades can put up 16 points. But I'm gonna say 36.
I'm impressed that you're giving him 16 points, sir. I'm impressed that you're doing that.
I think that the field goal kicker is going to get a little extra oomph in his kicks. I think he's going to get a little extra opportunities. And Luis Perez, what am I saying? No, they're probably not going to get 16 points. But I'm just trying to be nice here. 36-16 is my pick for this game right here. As we pick,
you're being nice. Definitely feel that way.
I'm trying out here when it comes to this team. But the Arlington Renegades, I just threw so much shade on them for being the snowflake of the week. I got to be nice to them somehow.
Hey! Who's giving them the business?
Like you just said in the streams that they just like garbage, trash. So I'm surprised
we got a few more comments here before we go to the next game. Looks like 6 says, I doubt the NFL would be open to relegating teams to a lower division. How would that work exactly? I mean, it would work out similar to how the format of NFL Europe was, because NFL Europe was similar in time as far as the time of the year that they played. It's just not going to be in Europe. It's going to be teams in the U.S., like a minor league system, like you got in Major League Baseball. That's how I would see it. Like you got in the G League for basketball.
Yeah, me, Drew, I'm thinking about like that. Yeah, like you're not necessarily taking teams but you're taking guys who may not get a lot of chance to play, like guys that'll be on the bottom of your roster, guys that are, inactive guys, stuff like that. Guys are on your practice squad, and you're putting them down to the XFL or UFL or whatever you want to call it. Because XFL still all in my mind, but UFL, and give them a chance to play and develop more so than like actual teams, but like players that don't play a lot.
I see your point. And hey, the second, hopefully you see it there too. But yeah, the G League, I think, would be a better development way, like developing, like taking that style and attributing that to if they were to adopt the UFL. It'd be interesting to see if that pans out. And even Mick saying, come on, cool, get in the game. I guess when you earlier, I started singing. I started doing like my rendition of since I'm filling in the role of Cole Johnson right now. Like I started singing, and it wasn't pretty, but you might resemble him, but you can't sing like Michael McDonald at Drew Willingham with the laughter. I mean, I'm not gonna. I played the fifth on that one when it comes to
what I'm hearing is that it was fortunate for me that I missed that. Is what I'm hearing.
Yes, but I had to fill the gap somehow, bro. Like when you look up there in the corner, like, yeah, I have experience with playing the bass and singing. I didn't necessarily sing the way I sang in that picture right here, but we'll get to that another date, another time off the football show. And Sick Diggy says, "Whoop that trick, whoop that trick, whoop that trick, get him, whoop that trick."
I like it.
Yeah. Drew needs to stay in his lane and stop singing and get help. Wow. That was wow.
Stop it. Get some help.
Basically,
Drew must have been bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, these guys are out here telling me this.
You should know your role and shut your mouth.
It's kind of like the next time I sing, it's going to be one of these situations popping up on the screen.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hey, but you know when it comes to these transitions that followed.
You like that? You like that?
Facts.
I like it.
Followed by, apparently, Mickey thinks that I'm high. Not right now. Maybe in like 6 hours.
It'd be possible, Mickey. I mean, we can't completely rule it out.
There's a time and place for everything. Not yet. It's too early for that. Everybody has their nightcaps or whatnot. A little bit of lettuce here, a little bit of lettuce there, but not right now, Mick. I think I'd be like, if I was like that right now, I would not be alive and talking to cool McCain. All right. But hey, now back to this. Apparently, Drew Willingham needs a talk box to sing for me when I apparently sing. Apparently, I'm that bad. Wow. I need to go back out to the garage and practice, even though it's been it's been 9 or 10 years since I performed.
Very brutal, man. They're very brutal on you today, man. Brutal.
They are. But hey, keep in mind, guys, up there in the chat, it's been 9 or 10 years since I performed live, okay? And in the garage, maybe it's been like 5 or 6 years. But your boy had a stroke, okay, a year ago. So let's give him a little bit of a break. It's still here. Yeah. So, hey, but I tried. And I filled the gap. Cool McCain was gone for only a few seconds. And, my singing lived on for only a few seconds. So thank you for coming back, Cool. Thank you for helping them and myself. Because
you're very welcome. I'm glad I was able to help everyone out, man.
I might have been able to jump into another commercial break to save myself, but I can only do but so much singing on a whim like that. I miss Cole Johnson when it comes to that. You could get him on a whim. He could just throw anything. He is like an iPod. There's like an iPod Nano stuffed up there with so much music, and he can just belt it on out whenever.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Now, our second game in the on the slate that we have is the same time, the 7 p.m. Eastern time, which, again, we were talking about earlier. Check your local listings. The Birmingham Stallions, who are still undefeated, travel to Houston to take on the Roughnecks, who are 1-3, getting their first win this past weekend. In the battle of the duds between them and the Renegades, are now 1-3. And, this game will be on Fox just as well as the other one we talked about. Do you think that the Roughnecks have a chance to keep it at least as interesting as the Defenders? We know that they're going to probably take the L, but do you think that they can keep in and hang tough considering their momentum from this past week's game?
Depending on what you consider hanging tough. If we're saying they can probably keep it within 7 points or so, 7, 8 points, they probably can do that. If your definition of hanging tough is like 3 points, probably not. I think Houston will play better now. They got a win under the belt. They got to run the ball. They feeling confident, but everybody's confident until they get punched in the mouth. They're gonna get punched in the mouth this week, so we'll see. But we definitely have the Battlehawks thing. Like, there's no question about that. Battlehawks.
When it comes to the Roughnecks winning streak, I think it comes to an end this weekend. It's not going to be pretty.
Over.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they won't win any more games this year, but playing the Stallions will be a good test to see what the Roughnecks really have. Because, we were just talking about the last game potentially being a blowout with the Renegades. This could potentially be the biggest blowout of the weekend right here with the Roughnecks, because their offense has been lackluster with their running game as well. That's why the two of them were 0-3 going into that last week's contest. And their defense, I think, is a little worse than the Renegades defense based on what we've seen in the production throughout the first month. So there's a good chance that the Roughnecks are going to give up a good amount of points in this contest. So, I mean, they got the edge over the Renegades in this past week's game, but looking at what they've been able to produce throughout the first 4 weeks, statistically, I'm going with the Stallions decimating again. It'll be the second time in 3 weeks, because in the previous week, Kyle and I were just talking about the Stallions decimating their opponent then, and I think there's going to be another decimation in this upcoming week's contest.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
So after that, on Sunday, we have 2 games, and they're at 2 different times, thankfully, so they don't stack them on top of each other again. But right here, we have a 12 o'clock game. The St. Louis Battlehawks, who are now 3-1, travel to D.C. to take on the Defenders, who are 2-2. 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on ESPN. When it comes to this game right here, the Defenders were tested last week against the Stallions. Do you think that with how close they came in that Stallions game last week, that we could see the Battlehawks fall to 3-2 after this game on Sunday?
I do not. I think the Battlehawks got their receiver back. They're ready now. They've been treading water, kind of getting there. Now they're getting everybody healthy. They're ready to come out and show what they can do. And DC, sometimes you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Ouch, like Cool McCain saying this.
You can't handle the truth.
Pretty much, man. Like, looking at that, I think we're going to disagree for the first time when it comes to our breakdown of shows. Like, look at that. The smile went real quick. It went down from a smile to frown. It was funny. But when I think about that, you could be getting a little emotional with your picks, sir, because of DC and the Philadelphia rivalry and not having the Philadelphia. So I hear you.
Or you could be getting a little emotional because it's DC.
No, I'm not. I'm just thinking of what they did with the Stallions last week. And when you lose by only 2 points and the lead was going back and forth, if they had not played the way they did this past week, and you can go back and listen to me on the previous episodes, I've been hard on the Defenders too for their other loss and how they played even in those 2 victories. However, based on what they did in their battle test this past week against the Stallions, I think they got a good chance here. Now, they do have to overcome a pretty solid offense with A.J. McCarron. The running back, Sayers, has gotten to over 100 yards in multiple games. He's doing good things over there, and it's going to be a test for the defense. We already know what Jordan Ta'amu can do, and the Battlehawks defense is a little lackluster when it comes to covering the pass. They're pretty decent on the run. So if Jordan Ta'amu can step it up and have a 250-plus passing yard game, you can establish at least 60 to 70 yards on the ground with one of those being converted into the end zone. You have a really good chance to get the upset win at home, because they are picking the Battlehawks, who are 3-1 coming into this game, and deservingly so. You should be picking the Battlehawks. However, if the Defenders would have lost by a touchdown or more in this past week, I would have not been saying what I'm saying right now. I would have been just as hard on them as I was before. But they proved to me that they can hang tough with an undefeated team who's undefeated for a reason after the first month. I'm going to go with the Defenders this week, but I'm going to say that it's only by a field goal.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to say that I believe Drew may have had a little medication before the show started.
Stop it. Get some help.
Come on, man. You just gotta get ready. You gotta get ready to see the Battlehawks take the can't agree on everything. I cannot agree on everything.
I think you meant give, but I got you.
Come on now. But hey, it's going to be interesting to see. We'll have to recap this next week. If you are available next Monday, you're invited back again, and we can recap this. And you know what? I will give you your flowers, and I will even...
Oh, my brother, testify
that you were right. I will give you your flowers to tell you were right. But in this moment, to give the prediction for that 12 o'clock game, I think I got to go with that team, and that being the Defenders on this day, at this time, on Monday. We'll see how things pan out at that time.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Gotta have heart, bro. Gotta have heart. But when it comes to this right here, we got one last game to cover, and that is at 3 o'clock on that day on Sunday, and this one being back on Fox. The 2-2 Panthers travel to Memphis to take on the 1-3 lowly Showboats. How do you think that things are going to pan out for this game? We're going to have a similar contest, but like we saw between the 0-3 teams this past weekend at 3 o'clock. It's going to be a boring contest to watch for the last game of the week.
I think it is, but it won't be. Like, it'll be close. But I'm actually going to go with the Showboats.
Oh, okay.
I'll go with the Showboats. Time for them
That's
to get
your upset this week. Okay.
Yeah. I save my upset for the Showboats.
So you think we got two teams at the end of this game that are 2-3 essentially, because the Panthers would follow 2-3, and then the Showboats would improve. I mean, based on what they did against the Battlehawks this past weekend, losing 32-17 in the fashion they lost to that Battlehawks-led offense, you think that they're going to put up enough points to beat the Panthers after having Jake Bates, who's 6 for 6 with field goals with multiple 60-yard field goals, multiple 60-plus yard field goals? You think that leg can come out there and save that Michigan Panthers team like it has throughout the first month of the year?
Now they got their butts whooped, so now they're going to come out and they're going to say someone else is going to suffer the way we did. In Michigan, it's not that much better, right? They've got the kicker, which has won them some games, but they're not that much better. So it's time to come out and it's time to say, you kick the ball you want. We're going to put you in situations. Can you kick 70-yard field goals, buddy? Can you kick 75-yarders? You can do that. Maybe I changed what I'm saying, but no one's doing that. So I think that we're going to get an upset here. The Showboats are going to be Showboats all over the Panthers. They're going to treat them like they're the Carolina Panthers and not the Michigan Panthers.
So we have a Sunday set of contests that Cool and I went from agreeing on Saturday to disagreeing on Sunday. I'm going to go with the Panthers. I don't think it's going to be I think it's going to be a close one, though. I think it's going to be kind of like a game like we watched this past weekend of the 2 0-3 teams. It's not going to be anything exciting to watch, but I think Jake Bates leads it with field goals and helps this team get over the hump. You also have Kai Nakua on that defensive side for the Panthers, who's got consecutive games with an interception. He gets another interception in this game, it'll seal the deal. They'll have consecutive wins. They'll have a situation.
Pick's going to be early.
Where they're 3-2. Do what?
His pick's going to be early, and the Showboats are going to have time to pull it back together and get some points on the board.
We got after the kickoff. We got the other team. We got the Showboats. First drive, first play, 14 minutes and 58 seconds left, and they throw an interception.
Not that early.
Okay, that's how I was envisioning your breakdown of this.
No, sir. Sometime in like the early part of the second quarter or the end of the first quarter, bad read, boom. Kai gets his, but then they have the opportunity to regroup and come back, see what they did wrong, and make sure they don't make that mistake again.
I'm gonna take 6 comment and I'm gonna merge it with this. So when it comes to the Showboats, I see the Showboats taking the This big Fat Juicy L is brought to you by Bad Mama Zesty Lemon Bars. Extra lemony, extra zesty, always bad. Bad Mama Zesty Lemon Bars.
That is what is going to be eaten by the Michigan/Carolina Panthers this week, because that's what they're going to play like.
They're gonna bring half of the Carolina Panthers team, merge it with the Michigan Panthers. That's how bad they're gonna be. I could see that potentially happen there, Cool McCain, when it comes to what we see out here on this field.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
So terrible.
Pretty much it is, but hey, you got to keep it entertaining, keep it light out here in these streams.
Total football talk.
As long as it's one. Oh, that's great. I love it. I hope it actually has recording. Listening to it.
And here with the post game, pretty much give our closing thoughts here, with what we've seen so far, the first 4 weeks of the UFL season. We got the NFL draft coming up in a few days, things to look forward with that too. We haven't really given too much of draft breakdowns throughout the past few weeks because we've had UFL. We've got other experts out there that do a better job, in my opinion, of doing the draft stuff. So I stay away from it. I'm not usually the greatest at picking that stuff. So I have been eliminating that from the show and just talking about topics and talking about previews and recaps of games and things to look forward to. Other than that, there are going to be some players that are selected this Thursday and throughout the entirety of the weekend that it's going to be like Christmas for people, who love football, who love professional football. This in the spring is the time for the NFL fans to get hyped, because new additions come into your team. Thinking about all that between everything we've discussed so far on this show, they're cool, and the things to look forward to in the upcoming week or so. What are your thoughts when it comes to us closing out the show and what we got going on in the football?
Man, I've been very excited. Just the thought of having spring football, just the thought of being able to watch gladiators smash into each other for more of the year. I like it. Disappointed with the ratings, but I think the product hasn't been presented in the best way it could be. And that's one of the reasons why, as far as marketing and things like that, I think you got to really evaluate and say, okay, what's the best time? When should we really be trying to put this out, right? And I think maybe you need to push it up a few weeks. I said that last time. I'm going to say it again. Maybe the UFL is actually watching the show this time because they're trying to figure out ways for the show to be better as well. Or the product to be better as well and more people to watch. So I think that the main thing is being consistent, which they are doing, having the things out there. As you get through the NBA playoffs, if you were kind of there once you whittle down the NBA playoffs to where there's less teams, that would be better because honestly, the NFL is king. The NBA is king right now, right? NFL draft is going to take over the weekend. WWE's having their draft this weekend as well. Well, starting it on Friday, and then, you're going to be talking about that all weekend too. So there's going to be so many things happening that it's tough. And I get there's always going to be things happening this time of year, but you got to find the sweet spot. You got to get up in there, right? And however you take that. But that's what you got to do. Find that sweet spot. You got to get up in there. You got to make it happen. So you just try and you see. Also, we need the Vegas Vipers back. One of your problems is we need the Vegas Vipers back. Just want to say that you got to try to expand next year and get some more teams because you contracted so many teams that were part of this already, which I thought I knew that you were going to have to get rid of some teams, but you cut both leagues in half. It's kind of tough because you lost 8 fan bases. That's why the product's not looking the same. Those guys are watching NBA now.
Facts. They got a football team in the NFL, but you took away the other part that could keep them just as hyped during the offseason about that team, and you basically neutered their other football team away from them. So I see what you're saying there, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Definitely some great solid points with that. And with my take, like I said, the NFL draft is coming up this Thursday. We got some great talents that are coming in the first round. Looks like there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks selected, in the first round potentially. You got some wide receivers, like Marvin Harrison Jr., who's pretty touted, is going to be taken in the top 10 picks. There's going to be some steals. There's going to be some teams moving up. There's going to be some steals throughout the weekend. I don't think so on the original draft day on night one, but rounds 2 through 4 or 5 through 7, we may see some steals or some teams moving on up in the draft to take the players they think that can help their teams get over the hump. Especially when you look at teams like the Texans. So, looking at all that being said, I'm very interested to see how things pan out for this weekend for the NFL draft. I'll definitely keep my eye on that while we've got UFL action and we've got other sports going on. I also want to take this time to give a huge shout out to my co-host who will be back soon, Cole Johnson. He did the updated intro and outro for today's show, as well as the commercial for Total Football Talk that is aired last night on D. Willie in the evening. Was also shared on the other shows throughout our Brothers in Broadcasting partnerships that we have. So thank you all out there who have been helping getting the word out for the new time starting today from 4 to 6 p.m. on average each and every week, as this is a 2-hour program where we'll be talking about all the things in professional football today. So with that being said, going back to the UFL, we covered the attendance, we covered the recap of the past week. We've got the preview of the upcoming week and all that stuff thrown about. When you look at the NFL and some sad news that came out yesterday with Roman Gabriel passing away, the quarterback, back in the day who definitely with the Rams and everything that he did, he was definitely a big quarterback of that time period, back before, all these rule changes have made football what it is today. But he definitely made an impact on how the game of football evolved into what it is today. I would say he played a part. His DNA is all over the quarterback position when it comes to the historical parts and looking at how things went between him and his legendary career. Definitely sad to see that, but he lived a long, good life. And, that's always something good to talk about here on shows like these. And especially when you look at football and for what it is and what it means to people out there, enthusiasts like myself, Cool McCain, and others that we know. It's it's a tough situation when you lose somebody that's part of that football family, but Godspeed to him. Hopefully everything is good for his family and they're all in great spirits. When you think about AJ Simon, who passed away the week before, he was supposed to be a part of this year's draft. It's been undisclosed what his death was about, but unfortunately, he will not be available to get selected, and that's sad because you think about all the work that you put in. Your collegiate career, getting, noticed enough to where you can get drafted in the NFL or at least be a free agent pickup of some sort, undrafted free agent or whatnot. And you didn't even get that opportunity to at least put your pen to paper. And that's sad. Thinking about those 2 losses from this past week was hard for the game of football, but, hopefully their legacy will live on, especially with him and the University of Albany. They'll be able to honor him in some way. And then you look at Roman Gabriel as well. They left their mark on the game of football, one collegiately, the other professionally. And it'll be interesting to see how things go with that going forward. But other than that, Cool McCain, like we've done before, remind the people who are watching where they can find you at, brother.
Man, there's so many places you can find me, but I'm going to make it simple for y'all. Drop down here, https://linktr.ee/Cool McCain. You can see all my shows. But in 17 minutes, youtube.com/@realplaycallers, the Monarchs of Wrestling will be going live, and we will be dropping some knowledge, some science, and we will be talking about all the different delectable layers of cakes and wonderfulness that is happening within the world of sports. Shout out to Daniel Berry Sports for hopping in as well.
Yeah, and shout out to you guys over at Monarchs of Wrestling. I've been on there once, and it was definitely a fun experience. Hope to do that again sometime down the road, talk about some wrestling. And speaking of that, before we get out of here, I said I was going to unveil it. The Serturba Media Championship prototype right here. This is the design of this. Got to give a shout-out to my guys in the wrestling realm, Brandon Guy and Has the Third, old Hugh Scott, for developing this championship where you have the Commander's Gridiron Report, Total Football Talk, D. Will in the Evening, and In or Out Sports Debate representing what this brand is. And I couldn't do it without you guys out here on these streams watching this week in and week out. With that being said, You know where you can find us, me and Cole Johnson, where you can see us in these below links right here, like right here, this one right here. So again, I need to get on that flow code and that Linktree stuff that everybody else is on, and I will do that soon. But right there, you've got that for myself, and you got this from my man Cole Johnson. Speaking of which, we will see you all next week again from 4 to 6 p.m. for episode 35 to recap the NFL draft, week 5 of the UFL, and preview the upcoming week 6. With that being said, we've only got one more thing left to do, and that's look at one awesome outro by my man Cole Johnson, and as well as Cool, his man himself. Only one more thing as well. Keep your head up during a tackle and keep playing until the whistle blows, as my man Cole Johnson will say, and stay safe out here in these streets.